Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with Part 7, Political Brotherhoods, Communism of the Brotherhood of Man by J.E. Richardson TK. Chapter 7, Political Brotherhoods 3, Communism. This brings us to a consideration of communism as a possible brotherhood such as the Brotherhood of Man. That we may not be guilty of taking anything for granted in this consideration of the subject, it is necessary that we define the term communism at the outset, in the exact terms used by those who stand sponsor for the communistic concept and social ideal. To that end, note the following definitions. 1. A system of social organization in which goods are held in common. 2. The opposite of the system of private property. 3. A system of social organization where large powers are given to small political units or communes. 4. Any theory or system of social organization involving the common ownership of the agents of production and some approach to equality in the distribution of the products of industry. 5. Unformulated socialism. The popular usage of the word communism conforms to the third of these definitions. The scientific usage sometimes confers to the first alone, and sometimes alternates between the first and second. The former was the traditional English practice. The latter is followed by writers influenced by the works of French authorities, who as a rule use the term indiscriminately in the two meanings. Having been a student of the subject for many years and having made a critical study of virtually all the leading writers of both Europe and America upon the subject, I believe I am within the facts when I say that the holding of goods in common might justly be termed the fundamental tenet of communism. While other considerations necessarily enter into the problem, they cluster about this central concept of ownership in common. This brotherhood, as well as that of socialism, confines itself to the distinctly materialistic aspects of life. It does not extend its efforts and activities to the educational, the mental, the moral, the spiritual, nor the scientific departments of nature, except in the very limited sense in which these may be involved in the purely physical aspects of common ownership of material possessions. It is just here that its dominant limitations would seem to disqualify communism as a real brotherhood of man. As in socialism, one of its efforts is to recognize existing government upon such a basis that competition shall give way to cooperation. In plain terms, this means to establish a government solely upon the basis of cooperation and entirely to eliminate all competition. To this end, all members are expected to become producers in whatsoever departments of human endeavor they elect to engage. And whatsoever they produce, they contribute to the community holdings, and they receive therefrom whatever they need. The very terms thus employed to define the contributions to and the disbursement from the community assets or holdings rise some of the problems to be met and solved. For instance, is each individual member to be judged on how much or what he shall produce? If he is, what incentive does this system provide which will impel him or inspire him to produce the full measure of his productive capacity? Does it not, on the other hand, rather hold out to him a strong inducement to put forth the least productive energy necessary to make him a sharer in the community assets? If someone or more of the community outside himself shall be charged with this responsibility, how will they proceed to impact or inspire each member to exercise the full measure of his productive energy? How shall they be able to offset the natural tendency of human nature to impel each member to exaggerate his needs in proportion to his voluntary contribution to the community fund? Again, who shall determine what are the needs of any individual member? Shall each individual be the final judge of his own needs? In other words, shall each individual within the community be the sole arbiter as to what percent of his productive capacity he will contribute to the community holdings, and how much he shall draw therefrom to cover his own needs? If not, then just how will these matters of contribution and consumption, or of income and outgo, be determined so that exact equity shall be guaranteed? Or shall the community interest be limited to the necessities of life, such as food, clothing, shelter, and a place to sleep? If so, by what method shall these be appointed? And if the appointment is not equitable and just, what assurance is there that the individual members are going to be satisfied and contented under such a system? In other words, has any advocate of communism developed an automatic or self-determining system or method by which to determine for each member of such a community the exact value of his contributions to the community holdings and the exact amount and value of his individual needs? Inasmuch as the earning capacity of one man may be vastly more or vastly less than that of his fellow member, and the value of his needs may be likewise more or less than others of his fellows, an equitable adjustment of contributions and needs among the individual members of such a community would seem to be one of the impossibilities to be solved before such a community can guarantee to its members either justice or equity, or satisfaction or contentment, or any adequate inspiration to employ the full measure of their productive energies and personal efforts, until communism shall discover some process that will reduce the needs of each and every one of its members to one and the same standard in amount, and rise the productivity of each and every member to identically the same standard, it will find itself with a vital problem unsolved. If it ever should succeed in its solution, that very fact will rise another equally vital problem which must be met and solved. It arises out of the following facts of nature. 1. In point of productivity, earning capacity. If the community takes the full earnings of the man of superior capacity and offers him nothing in return for himself as a reward for the surplus he produces, what inducement has the community to offer him that will be sufficient to impel him to go on producing more than his fellow member, whose earning capacity is only 1/4 as great? 2. If the superior producer receives from the common fund only the same to cover his needs that is appointed to the most inferior producer, does communism hold this to be equity? 3. What effect is that likely to have upon the superior producer? 4. When he sees himself producing 4 times as much as a fellow, but at the same time observes that his fellow, who produces 1/4 as much as he, receives from the common good as much as he does, is he not going to feel that he is being placed upon a level with the most inconsequential producer of the entire community? 5. How long does it seem to you the superior producer is going to be satisfied with this quality of equity? Is he not going to rise the question, since I receive only the same amount from the community holdings as the least contributor thereto, why should I go on contributing 4 times as much as he? Why not give 1/4 of my productive energy and time to the community, and take the other 3/4 for myself, playing golf or pitching horseshoes or playing the violin? I will still be given as much to the community fund as the most inferior producer, and will not be doing him an injustice. 6. What would be the effect upon the small producer? Would he not be inclined to say, inasmuch as the community allows me just as much to cover my needs as it allows to the man who contributes the largest amount to the community holdings, it is evident that the community holds me to be just as important as he. I am just as good as he. Even if he can and does produce 4 times as much as I do for the community, I consider myself most lucky, for I am able to make just as prosperous a showing as he. My wife can have anything his wife can have. She can wear just as good clothes and go in just as good society as his wife, but I can't help wondering what he thinks about it. 7. To sum it up in a single question, does not any system which eliminates all competition at the same time eliminate one of the basic inspirations which makes any government prosperous and progressive? 8. Is it not equally true that it is only the absolute assurance that he shall receive full value for all his earnings that inspires the individual to employ all his time and productive energies? Is it not just this that enables him to get ahead in the marathon of life? 9. Let us look at the other side of this problem. Is it not true that any system of government that eliminates all competition and substitute therefore cooperation, thereby kills the inspiration to productive activity, invites inactivity and stagnation, and reverses the wheels of progress? Those who base their communistic ideas of government upon the concept that natural laws are all cooperative and nowhere sanction competition have only to study the illustrations set forth under the head of competition to realize a complete disillusionment upon that subject. They will be surprised to find that progress in all the kingdoms of nature is inseparable from competition, that wherever competition is eliminated or stifled, stagnation, retrogression, deterioration, and de-evolution follow in rapid succession, and with as much certainty and precision as the seasons follow in their order. This, however, must not be construed to mean that nature does not sanction nor provide for cooperation as well as competition. It means only that both competition and cooperation are vital concomitants in nature's evolutionary progress. It means that both these factors are necessary to complete nature's plan and method of procedure. And this finally means that any social or economic plan or method of procedure which wholly eliminates either competition or cooperation is in direct contravention of nature's law. Such a system cannot endure because it omits one of the vital elements necessary to the perpetuity and continuity of nature's established plan of action and method of procedure. Does it appeal to your intelligence and to your sense of logic that any brotherhood, such as communism, with the element of competition entirely eliminated, could possibly be the Brotherhood of Man, which has been sought throughout the ages and down to the present time? Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.